Hey everybody, welcome to another Universus Studios video, I guess. Yeah, I guess we're just doing videos, so no episodes,
Yeah.
I guess. JJ is not joining us on this one because he is busy, but that's okay. It's not going to stop us. Today, I think we're going to be talking about, off the back of our last video, talking about the tier list that we evaluated ourselves. Tim Keefe's tier list has now been posted to the Facebook page and Reddit. You can go check it out. It's the conglomeration of a bunch of people that he messaged, including myself. Um, and I think it had some pretty interesting things. I think one of the. Sorry, and based off of the tier list, we're basically going to be talking about today Worlds 2020 once again, but instead of the state of the meta necessarily, the event as a whole. Mark, having now gone to 5 majors?
I've been to. Have I been to 5 majors?
I think that was
Been
right.
to. Nope. I've been to three. Two nationals and one worlds.
And I've now been to 4 majors. We can kind of get a good idea, and mainly for maybe our newer viewers or people that are trying to get into more Universes content on YouTube, kind of discuss what the events are like. Is it worth going? Are you stressed out of your mind about your deck and what you should be prepared for? Or should you have these really high ambitions of doing incredibly well? And I think we have some really good viewpoints because Mark being more new to the game than I have been, and us having very unique experiences of going to majors and doing very well, like in our first experiences, never expecting that that was going to happen, like for sure. Like I remember showing up and I couldn't believe that I got fourth place at my first Nats that I went to, and it was just being crazy. Or Mark doing incredibly well at the first team's event that he went to, stuff like that. After he lost to my team. But I think so. Basically, to keep it going and roll, it's basically with the tier list being out. How are you going to prepare for Worlds 2020? There's a lot of information that I don't think we really understand, specifically like price support. This is towards the end of January, and we do essentially have like a month until the event actually happens. So all that information may be released. We may get information about price support, hopefully even like some My Hero cards coming out. That'd be really exciting. That's a really cool reason to kind of get excited to maybe start planning your trip. But we're more so specifically talking about your deck playing at the event and what you should be expecting, because if there's anything that we can understand right now, it's what the meta is going to look like when we get there. So how do you want to kick this off, man?
Start wherever you want.
Okay, let's kind of discuss let's discuss people's decks that they plan on bringing. I would say some questions that people would be asking would be, should I be afraid of diversity? If I don't want to be afraid of diversity, do I just play some lower tiered character that I really enjoy and have a good time? And if that's the case, do I need to prepare my deck for these top tier decks to have a good time? Because I'm going to base this based off of the nationals that we just came off to that Mark won for singles. I think the overwhelming majority of the player base, if they had to play against a Spirit Gun, Spirit Shotgun, Toguro Brothers deck, they would express to you that they didn't have a good time. Specifically because that interaction and the way that that deck worked is you never got to play your foundations, and if you did, you lost because you lost everything. And if it was more so people weren't playing good enough symbols for foundation destruction, if people weren't expecting so many spirit guns and so many Toguro brothers to be running around, how can we now help you prepare your deck for what you're going to see at Worlds so that that kind of experience doesn't happen? So with that in mind, we're basically going to be talking about the metagame to get started. Regardless of what character you play, you need to be aware of the top tier characters that exist in this game. And we're going to refer to Tim Keefe's list. So we're going to list off the top 4 characters, and Mark's going to go in depth on all of them. First one we're going to kick off is Gil. Well, Mark, how do I prepare my deck to beat Gil?
All right. So I know I should be an expert because I won a PTC and nationals back to back with this character. But I'm no expert at this game. I'm a beast trigger, as everyone knows. This character's a monster. If you're new to the game or if you're an expert in the game, well, if you're an expert in the game, you know what this character does, and you have some idea how to play around it. But if you're new to the game, what Gil does is he draws 2 cards. Once per turn, draw a card after your opponent plays a card, which is insane. So, and he gives plus and minus speed to your own attacks and your opponent's attacks. And if he ever gives plus or minus 3 or more speed, he gains 2 life. So he's really hard to block. Our kind of inside joke with me, Barrett, and JJ was you can't block Gil until turn 3. And what we mean by that is it's not that you can't like have some cheeky way to block his attack. It's you have a great chance of losing the game if you block him before turn 3. Because if you block him at any point and he's throwing a 10-speed attack at you, you probably tapped your board and just create this opening for him to just play an attack chain that's going to kill you. And you can't defend from 2 attacks against him. It's really hard because he gives 3 to 4 speed on every attack he plays.
I would say, especially the newest version of this deck that's kind of been running around. Specifically, Mark, I know you've updated yours, but although the deck may have lost Spirit Gun, the deck gained things like Shield Big Bang, and being able to now have this constant threat that that the guild player can play multiple times against you, just at the cost of either a using assets that he's built throughout the game, which there are some very good assets under Life. Like, I actually think Life has the best asset pool to go from. While at the same time, just as Mark mentioned, early on in the game, if you just didn't block his stuff, because you probably didn't because there was like 9 speed stuff, you gave him momentum, and every piece of momentum turns into another play of Shield Big Bang, and he gives it 4 speed, and he gains 2 every time he replays that attack. Which is insane, because before he played kind of more generic stuff. Shotgun being a really key deck or key part of the deck, kind of killing people. Spirit Gun removing key pieces to get off the board. In some people's versions that they were playing, they played Moonset. Mark's a Beast Trigger and doesn't play Moonset, but like Moonset being another removal option that people could play, as well as playing his own attacks like the Big Baby and the 4 diff that you just can't block.
Cryokinetic is one of his best attacks. So if you ever block Gil, he gets to still draw a card, so he never loses value. On top of that, he has this unfair advantage where if he goes second, he gets to see 9 cards, and he has built-in defense that says you probably can't kill him turn 2. So the biggest thing for 6-handers and even 7-handers in this game is if you go second and you build 4 cards, you have 2 or 3 cards in hand, and that's your entire defensive turn. If I build 4 as Gil, I still have 5 cards in hand on my defensive turn and built-in minus speed, which pretty much says I can't die usually. And not me specifically, but Gil the character. It's what makes him one of the best characters in the game is because you cannot lose turn 2. You can, but I've never seen it done. You have to get really lucky or throw Tiger Screams when that was a card.
Yeah, that's fair.
But there's no other good way to kill him. If you go up against a guild player, if you see myself or another guild player, we're probably playing Life because it's the best version of the guild deck. He's great under All in Order as well. It's different packages. You can see different stuff, but Life is the best. And you have to be prepared for Soul Devour because Soul Devour is insane. It's his 6 diff attack. It has Powerful on it, so you probably want to wait for Powerful. And it's an 8 low 8 that gains him 2 life. It's a really fast hack, and if he blocks with it on your turn with a 1 low block, he gets to draw 2 cards off it just like Gil. So just all around, it's generically insane. You need an answer for Shotgun because if you block something and tap out, he can just kill you with Shotgun because it exists in the deck. And you probably need an answer for Shield Big Bang because late game, if you have 2 momentum and 2 assets, it says he gets to throw a 10 high for 6 at you 5 times before he even has to play any other attacks in his hand.
So tell me, Mark, I apologize for the video. Mark was lagging a little bit. I thought it was me, but it was definitely him. Um, how do I put cards in my deck, or are there specific matchups that Gil struggles with the most?
So he does the best defensive decks in the game, like Lilith. He doesn't usually care about his attacks being sealed. I mean, shotgun being sealed is pretty good. He also gets a new card called Protecting the Protector. It says you can't destroy, flip, or seal any of his stuff if he has momentum. So usually that answers most of the defensive stuff in the game. What you really want to be able to do against Gil is just have good speed resets on board that don't neg you foundations. Like that you don't lose stuff to use. If you have free speed reduction, that's good. Like there's the one that picks up the asset. Guardian of the Spirit Sword is a really good one. Dark Side
Dark Side Resetting. I would say Living Pendulum is another good one because it just commits. I would
is
say
good.
Fei Fei is good enough because it just flips. Um,
You can play Inhuman Speed. In this meta, you should probably play it at a 4 of between your main and sideboard, just because this character exists. It's
especially as well if, with this new Sky Mathers attack coming out, it may just be a really good tech option to have access with Inhuman Speed, and it just commits as cost. So like you can't ever really go wrong with it.
It taps itself to cancel anything that would gain life and burns them too. It's really good against Gil, and with the deck losing Spirit Gun, it's an answer they usually have to take off the board. So it's just a really good card to have. Other than that, there's no real characters you can play that beat the matchup.
Shinnok.
You can play Shinnok. Gil can still beat the Shinnok match. He just has to play as a 5-hander sometimes, or push into the lose 2 and have a foundation blown up. And then
What about Bang? You're only 6-hander now, son.
Yeah, so Gil usually doesn't get hurt by Bang because if they bang you defensively, you still get to draw a card as a response to Bang. If you have a Revoke, you just cancel it. If you have Protecting out, you just cancel it. If you don't have either of those out, you draw your card, you send the attack, and then you probably just pass and play defense. You build foundations and pass. The deck's very good at being defensive. One of the best deadlock matches you can run into.
I think probably the biggest takeaway for the deck is the reason why I think Gil is so strong is because you intuitively you want to kill him quickly, but it's so hard to do because he has built-in speed negation. You don't want to die to him too early because Gil can definitely do a strong offense against you on turn 2 and turn 3, but you also need to hold on important cards for you to potentially punish him for attacking you. And at the same time, if you don't end the game quick enough, because the life symbol is just so good at late game having attacks you have to deal with, things like Shield, Big Bang, Shotgun, as well as having attack removal and things like Swordfish, having access to cards like Revoke, having incredibly good defensive blocks like Sword and Oak Shield, and at the same time having incredibly good like committal pieces, things like Friends and Rivals, if they're being used in the deck accordingly, having offensive pieces like English Aristocrat and Prophetic Fulfillment and Confronting Jeddah. Like at any point you attempt to be the aggressor at the late game and they survive, it's over. Like it's actually just probably over. And so it's this constant battle of you never wanting to kind of attack him, but you know that you have to because you're on a clock, and it's just this clock game that you'll probably just lose. That's probably the hardest part about the character.
And what some of the best players in the game do is they poke you, and they poke you till they get you in a position where they can kill you. You can't do that against this character
Because he gains
not only does he gain life off your opponent's attacks usually. It usually gains life off about half of your attacks you play because most attacks in the game right now have 2 keywords, or the good ones at least. But you gain 2 life off every attack that touches your board. If you see any of your answers that gain life on top of that, whether it's a poolside on top of your discard, or you have the tap for 3 speed and gain 3 if it deals damage, you usually can gain any poke attack you can gain back by playing 1 attack on your turn.
The really cool part about the character as well is that he's automatically really good against these other strong attacks that we just talked about. He's good against Shotgun because he gains life and can block it very easily with his answers that can deal with it, like Rhythmic Fighting Style. and
Oak Shield.
Oak Shield, like we talked about, or he can Swordfish it away. And he can get rid of things like Shield Big Bang because he can block them a lot. Can Swordfish it away.
Can rhythmic
Can
it.
rhythmic it as well. These kind of
Almost.
same answers, like the really good loop mechanics or getting huge damage off of shotguns, he can deal with inherently, because both of those attack have 2 or less keywords, and it's just really annoying.
Yeah,
Um,
and even if he doesn't get to gain life, like all the better attacks in the game, whether that be like not launch necessarily, because I believe that has 3 keywords.
yeah,
And he
right.
still gets minus.
Stun,
He still
powerful, EX.
that's it. Yeah,
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 I
that's
think
all.
that's it.
So he still gets to give -2 speed to all the other best attacks in the game, even if they have 3 keywords. Like if it's not a 5 keyword attack like Nutcracker, Nutcracker is one of his best weaknesses because he can't do anything about it. But now the deck has built-in speed resets, which didn't have before. You can now get the remove, set a speed to 0. You still get access to revoke. You still get access to poolside for -speed if you ever need it. Swordfish, all these other answers. So yeah, any great attack you play that has 3 keywords, he still gets to give -2 speed, and it's free. There's 0 cost on him at all, and that's why he's such a crazy character.
Yep. Moving on, we can move on. He's crazy good. If Mark doesn't end up winning with Gil again, it's probably because somebody else is winning with Gil, and Mark got screwed over in rounds or something.
It happens.
We probably won't talk as in depth with the other ones just because we don't have as much like personal sit back behind the character knowledge. But things you should look out for as well. Just sitting in the A+ tier on Tim Keefe's list is we have Jedha 2. Jedha 2 being the premier Foundation destruction character. He also lost Spirit Gun in his deck, but he gained access to Tira's combos, which allow him to play more destruction built in and more momentum building / momentum discarding. It essentially just it made it to where Jedha became, instead of focusing on playing very strong base attacks like Spirit Gun, the deck now kind of uses his actual mechanics of like feeding in and out momentum, and the fact that the Tira attacks can destroy more foundations on top of you using Jedha's ability and getting damage pumped from Jedha and gaining extra stuff, because every Jedha deck I've seen this format is a little bit different in a little way. You still have things like Tagoro Brothers in the deck. You still play strong things, and he's still going to be able to reversal you on your turn and hit you really hard with his reversals, especially the 3-diff Dita Del Lamento. I think that card's crazy busted in him because it's
Plus, you
almost
still get the tier asset, which
yeah
is insane.
more attack removal because he has this card that he's
Yeah.
always gets to make live. He still has things like friends and rivals to commit your board. Like, it's this incredibly high. I don't want to call it a high roll deck, but like if it sees the craziest nutso cards at the beginning of the game and you start using your foundations and you get Toguro Brothers and he gets one out and then he plays the combo and gets something else out, it's so hard to come back from the situation. You probably just lose. And at the same time, as we talked about with the guild deck, it's so easy for this deck to play a late game kind of thing as well. And he's constantly making you build new pieces while he builds up this fortress of a wall, and you have to deal with it. And he has 29 life for some reason. He has built-in DR, so if you don't have enough momentum outs, he can cancel momentum outs. He can keep feeding you in new momentum. He has ways of turning your momentum into burn. It burns them. Is that what the ultra rare does, right, for Tira?
Yeah, so I believe it burns them for each year momentum,
I
and
think
you discard
yeah,
you
they
dis,
discard them
you
all.
you stuff 2, and it gets XX for their momentum, and then it gets them all out and burns them 1 for each of their momentum.
Right. So
So
it has like this. Even if you like, if I poked you down in the beginning of the game, if you don't have this kind of life game that Gil has, you can sack it all off and just kill him with the burn, as well as having to deal with this attack. Like, there's so many crazy new nutso in-game pieces this deck has. It's just incredibly oppressive. Now, we don't know if this deck is going to be crazily affected by the new Van Helsing Foundation that's going to be coming out, which provides Foundation destruction protection
So
from.
this card is really cool. It was really well needed for death. I do not think it'll be a relevant answer for the Jetta matchup because it specifically hits destroy.
Destroy, right.
And most of what the package is running now is add to momentum,
Add.
add to momentum, add to hand, add to
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Like
that's
because you
fair. It specifically stops Jettas though. The respawn on block because that one does say destruction. The fact that it's playable while committed makes it work, and it does still stop Toguro Brothers because Toguro Brothers says destroy on it.
I mean, it's still a 1-for-1 for Tagora Brothers. It just redirects the hit
To a
if it
committed card.
yeah, that's true. It's playable while committed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is super nice. Oh, and he has 28 life, by the way.
I thought it was 29, but yeah, whatever. He's crazy busted.
He's still insane because he gets the DR. And the tier asset kind of gave him what he was missing because it also
Attack
pumps.
removal.
It gives speed on your combos.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right.
He was missing speed, and it gives you speed, and for desperation you draw a card. So it's extra draw and extra speed in the deck. So if you go up against the deck and they see the tier asset, it means you have to play an extra attack to kill him, and it's harder to block everything he's throwing at you when you're already tapped out.
Yeah,
So
and that deck still also has Skull Barrier, which used to be the only way to do it, and you required specific setup, obviously, but like having 2 momentum and having it in the card pool and things like that. Now this is just an asset that just gets to come out, and if you're playing the Death symbol, which you can build this deck under Death or Life, because Tiers shares across both, but Death gets the Toguro Brothers package, which is probably better, right? Yeah, it definitely has Death, right?
what?
Toguro Brothers. Yeah, okay, yeah. I always confuse it by having Void.
I was saying he has water though, not life.
He has Water, not Life for.
You said you could play it under life. I was
Sorry,
like,
Death and you're right, not Life.
yeah.
You can play him under Death and Water, which you get all
They're
of
super
these.
tired.
I guess so.
He's been working all day.
Uh, and regardless, you get Bang under all these symbols. You get the tier of support under these symbols, and you can still just blow people out. Having the attack removal under.
You can play shotgun if you want.
Yeah.
Like
The fact that he has answers now to things like shotgun. Before he could just die to them because he didn't have attack removal, or I believe there weren't like cards that like said if he blocked it deals nothing except for Kieran Soul.
just Kieran Soul, yeah.
And then Shield Big Bang he has an answer to because of this card existing.
Yeah.
So it's just another strong mid range.
The deck got better.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it lost Spear Gun, which was the nuts attack of Nationals, it was the only it was the nuts attack of Nationals. Like they hit rock, but like I didn't see a rock all day. Like it was Spear Gun everywhere at Nationals, and that's why Jetta was insane because it was who plays Spear Gun the best, and
it was Gil and Jetta.
He played it the second best because Gil played it the best. But because Gil gained life and it was a 8 mid for 6 that blew up a foundation. That was safe for no reason at all.
Yeah, you're gonna see him, and here's the thing too: if you don't see him, you might actually probably see Tira because she's got foundation removal as well, and she's a 7 hand size aggressor. I think that deck is inherently more aggressive, whereas Jetta is just a better, well-rounded character. But you can avoid diversity by playing Tira, and like sighting into Jetta and playing the same exact deck.
Or Shadow Man if you felt like being ballsy.
You can do that too.
Just sighting in.
Or Liu Kang MRP.
Oh,
with combo.
The boy from last year's Nationals, my first major.
Moving on with Tim Key's list. This one's kind of one that we didn't really think was at the same kind of level that I guess everybody else that filled out this survey did. Because this character is in a very different kind of mindset that we kind of gave her in our own tier list, and it's Jinghua.
She's still insane.
She's crazy. She still plays the game her way.
Cross from one as if you're a casual player and you're playing Hiei or you're playing like any of these B tier characters because that's who you want to play in Nationals. Which that's the great thing about UFS. There's going to be people there playing B tier characters on this list all over the place. You do not want to run into this character. If you are playing an A+ tier character, you're probably fine playing against this character, which is why we did not put her in that category, because if she goes up against someone in the same category as her, she's inherently not as strong. As where if you put Jetta against Gil, it's a tough matchup for both players. if you put inherently, they're just even across the board. But this character is a little less so.
Yeah. Essentially, she's one of the best stun characters in the game because she gives stun to stuff. She has access to Krita Yuga, and it's her card, and she really wants to see it almost every single game. She probably is going to see it every single game. Um, as soon as she blocks your stuff, she's attacking you. If you block her stuff, she's attacking you and shutting you down on your own turn and their own turn as well. You have to constantly have answers for this character, whether it be readying your foundations, canceling committal abilities, or shutting her character off.
And we still haven't said who she is, but you guys guessed it by now.
No. I said Jung Wai.
Only one dot. But...
Oh, okay. Whatever. She's definitely a character that, like, as kind of Mark talked about, she oppresses people that have never played against this character. And even if you've played against this character, it's always a difficult strategy lineup when you go against her, because sometimes your deck that you've created, even if you're playing like a crazy guild player, the only attack you see is like your easiest to block one, and you're like, well, I don't want to sling this against Zhonghua and have my turn end. So it creates this, or like Jetta, right? Jetta could draw attacks, but they're so easy to block that as soon as he slings one of them, he's going to get punished, and creates this opportunity for him to get backswung. I think that's kind of the whole point of this character, is like she's so good at backswinging because she backswings you in the middle of your turn and then still creates this issue where you have to go through her. I think the reason why I think she dropped off a little bit was because a lot of people were playing like the all good and earth symbols, and she struggles against those symbols a lot, specifically because they maybe under all you see more cards for you to see the answers that you have against her, or you see things that she can't deal with, stuff that gets incredibly fast. Essentially, if she can't block your stuff, she's very good. And if her attacks aren't lethal enough on her turn, you don't ever have to block her, which means she has to play real UFS. So it creates this.
He has to see Krita Yuga.
Yeah.
So that's why she struggles so much. If you go up against a Zhonghua and you've never played against it, you want asset hate in your deck in today's meta, whether that's mained or in the sideboard. And her with Krita Yuga is probably one of the best examples why you need asset hate. Because if she puts that card on the board, you have a much higher chance of losing that game. If she never sees Krita Yuga, the character usually can't do a whole lot, because giving an attack stun 1 and free playing an attack usually isn't enough to kill you. It's when you have an asset out that gives you
3 damage
stun
on
3 and readies a foundation for 3 damage, which makes attacks lethal at that point, because it's 6 extra damage during the turn and on your turn as well when they reversal you with their own attacks. But on top of that, they can stuff your card pool, make you take the 6 extra damage, and stun your entire board because Krita Yuga exists.
Yep.
It's just with that asset existing.
The cool thing about this deck as well is that there's so many ways you can go. You can kind of play her 3 base damage kind of package and like stick to just 3 base damage attacks, gaining her ultra rare if you really want to play Subblade, gaining access to Lilith support underwater if you're playing or Void, right?
Yeah, she's still one of the best Ice Dragon characters as well.
And she can also do the combo package, which you got some from Tira, but mainly using things like, I would say, like Windmill Punch, which is also 3 base damage. And you can do this kind of combo base deck using cards like Precise Blow that work with her and make her more incredibly defensive. I know JJ, his favorite card that he loved to see when he played this character at UK Nats was Precise Blow, because it was an incredibly good offensive piece, and it was also your best defensive piece. And so it was just like a crazy, crazy card for her. It being at 3 base damage.
Yin and Yang.
Yep. Yin and Yang, being able to selectively pick those kind of things up. She uses momentum very well because of things like Windmill Punch existing in that kind of character. Subblade for multiple if you're playing that version. There's just so many routes you can take. So even if you feel like you had one answer for one version, you're like, oh, I got an answer for Yin and Yang. Well, this Zhonghua deck you're playing against might not even have Yin and Yang in it, and you might just get smashed because you didn't have an answer to multiples, and it just happens.
Yeah, if you get hit with Zhanghua, she built Krityuga turn one. You built your hand, and then she played an Ice Dragon. You
Mm-hmm.
lose a turn.
You're like,
And
oh,
if you,
yeah, because it's what, 6 foundations, right?
yeah, it's done six, and then
Mm-hmm.
you freeze 6 foundations. So if it's played turn one or two, you usually just lose the next turn if you don't have an answer.
Yep, she definitely still has a rough matchup against all symbol and like good symbol things. Cards like Sense of Morals, um, Burning with Revenge, Marrying Age existing now. You kind of get to punish her extremely for readying cards off of Krita Yuga. Um, she struggles against cards like Celestial Being. She struggles against Enhanced Cancellation, obviously, like things like Revoke, things like Dark Side of Karma. And she is still a 7-hander, so she still can die to things like Spirit Shotgun existing. So you can still answer her. So it's still good. She's good. She just, I feel like out of all 4 of these characters we're going to talk about, she feels the weakest, I would still say.
She gets the reversal save attacks and
Yep.
stun your board.
Mm-hmm.
It's just inherently a tough matchup if you're not ready for it. So
Yep.
just we're giving you something to be ready for. Like you'll still see the character. If you can play Revoke, you should be playing Revoke for any character you play against. If you can play Orphaned Alchemist, you should be playing it for this character because it stops so much. It stops Precise Blow. It stops Yin and Yang. So like it just stops some of those things. It stops Fatality. So it stops a lot of cards that a lot of decks struggle against.
Yep.
And
Uh,
this character specifically.
Moving on with the next one, and probably the last one we'll specifically talk about, but the last one on the A plus tier for World the Tim Keefe's tier list is Tim Keefe himself, his 2 dot specifically, and this character was the menace of the PTC circuit after he came out. He was at every PTC. He was either Swiss champion or won it or was top 4 or did multiple of those things. Um, I believe Shane Duckworth was the first kind of successor with the deck. He succeeded with this, getting first place at the Omaha PTC, which was the largest PTC of the year, showing the versatility of this character and how he can play defensively, shut down your opponent's board, make your opponent debuild cards, as well as just playing these huge attack strings and card strings and killing you because you ran out of answers. At the same time, sealing 2 of your best defensive pieces, and when you attacked him, sealing 2 of your best offensive pieces. He was so prevalent, and so many people complained about him that he got errated, and to where his response to plussing to the check, he can only now do twice per turn. And he still showed up to events and still did crazy well. He was on the teams for the team that Scott Sudman's team that won uh, Nationals teams event under Brian Harris, who also had a really great build for this deck. The 3 biggest prevailers I think that were playing it at the time were Shane Duckworth, who succeeded with it, Phil Birch, who had his own version that actually diversified Shane in Nationals playing the same character, and then Brian Harris, who had succeededly played it in Worlds. This deck does so much. It's essentially the Earth symbol, like good Earth cards, but it has a twist because Tim Keefe is an inherently strong character. How do you play against this character?
So it's really hard to play against this character. They're playing the Earth build, the most important thing you have to do is avoid them getting turn 1 momentum. Your opponent can attack you turn 1 if they're going second, and usually it's check a 5, build foundations, or play an akimbo on a 6, check a 4, pass it, draw cards for free. It's just very free. You want to avoid them getting momentum turn 1 and 2, because if they play their attack chain turn 2 and get momentum, you usually die to missile launcher
Or Dark Charito?
or Dark Chirito turn 3 or 4. That's usually what the deck does. It grinds you down. It's a poke deck. It pokes you and then it kills you. It just doesn't wait as long to kill you. It kills you a lot quicker. And the plus to check was always insane for the character. It allows it to play those overtly different attack chains like Cassie Cage. But the seal is the stronger part of the character. It's absolutely insane. You wouldn't think so, but the fact that your best defensive pieces you build are blank immediately for no cost is insane. If I put a confronting jet on board or a dark side of karma or something I'm gonna use to
Refuse
cancel something.
these crazy strong unique foundations that people play. They're immediately irrelevant against this character.
Yeah. And the only things you can do to get around seal is
Protecting the protector.
protecting the protector, which I mean, it's around it. You have to discard a momentum you probably don't have turn 2 or 3,
Right.
to slow down this character from doing something they'll just do on the next attack.
Revoke is incredibly strong against this character. I would say
Revoke's the best
when it
answer.
when it comes to using his momentum for either the missile launchers or the dark cherry toes, you got to revoke him. Um,
For
it's
the power flip's also
and the
the
power
strong.
flip revoke. That's right. Because that's where he kind of commits using either things like Bastion Stance, Fusion Refusals, and like feeds away his staging area. Specifically, like the committed ones, because you can shove in your Fusion Refusal and then ready all your cards essentially for free.
Yeah.
Canceling the
If you're
power
playing
flip.
hand cannon's good.
Yep. Canceling the power flip makes it to where you stop his turn, and essentially because he has now all these clogged cards in there and he can't get rid of them. Um, I would say Bang is an acceptable answer, especially now with the errata on him, because he's typically not responding using one of the responses on the first attack that he plays in his attack chain, which means you can make it to where he never used it at all and he only gets one seal, because that's always typically the first enhance no matter what if you play against him.
Yeah.
Even on your own terms. So like you can do offensive bangs and it work really well, and defensive bangs are usually good enough. You basically he steals one of your best foundations and you steal his character. Like that's the trade off. But it's still the Earth symbol, and so you still have to deal with things like Dark Side of Karma. You still have to things with like Oak Shield. You still have to deal with things like Overly Dramatic. Some of the strongest defensive cards in the game. Um, he is off symbols, or he can on symbol stop. Yeah, and it's still
And it
relevant.
wasn't around for nationals, but it will be seen at Worlds. A Chaos Tim Keefe. I got a lot stronger with Downward Spiral existing.
Yep.
Because turn 2, they can just play Reduction into Downward Spiral, and as long as they don't check another 2, they can auto pass their turn.
Yep.
And it usually, if they played like over the tops or clear cutters into it, it's usually hitting you for half your life total on the first turn of the game, which means they have to put in so much less work killing you.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough deck to play against. It's one of those, if they draw their pieces and at the right time, you can just lose to it if you don't have an answer.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point of like this list. All four of these, and we could go on and talk about all these characters that are below him, but for the sake of not having another hour and a half video, we won't. Essentially, kind of the things that you can find in common with a lot of these top tier characters is attacks are crazy good right now. And I think that can be said for any deck that you build in UFS right now. And so, regardless of who you decide to bring to an event like Worlds, you have to have answers for these incredibly strong attacks. Because they are the attacks that will blow you out turn 2, or your opponent is trying to set up for a giant turn 3, turn 4 play, and you either have to see them coming, have answers for them, or you just lose. And that's actually just how UFS feels right now, which isn't bad. I think there's still enough counterplay and enough versatility in those builds and characters for the game to still feel very refreshed. But there are a lot of attacks that you're like, man, here it comes. Like, oh, your turn 2? Where's the Ice Dragon? Where's the Moonset? Where's the, I don't know, crazy good one.
Yeah, when I play this game now, even casually, I always build my turn 1 expecting the first. I'm just gonna get dropped with some crazy ultra rare turn 2.
Oh, the meteors. The meteors. That's right.
Yeah, meteor, moonset, ice dragon, shotgun, some crazy attack that's just gonna be something.
Spiral, like all of these things.
Yeah, I think Securing His Destiny is a card that's actually going to make a comeback. A card that has not seen play in very many lists recently, just because of the stats on it and what it does. But I think it does a lot right now, and I think it's going to be really good for this Worlds with attacks doing so much. With you being able to stop Shield Big Bang once if you need to, you can stop the enhance on Shotgun. You can stop Downward Spiral getting damage. You can stop Moonset. Well, that seems a little counterproductive, but Like all these different things you can do with that card. Showtime, like if you play any flash attacks just because you want to play flash attacks, which you can play Showtime as another securing his destiny. Just you need some sort of answer to attacks, whether that's ceiling attacks or
I think that's what Death or Air Raptor is gonna do. They get to play all these securings and they play Showtime.
well, Death Raptor is so insane right now. I don't know why you didn't make this list because now you get that card that says kill an attack if you have more cards removed from game.
Yeah, you get
And
the Voldo removal, as well
yeah,
as having Foundation Destruction Protection with the Van Helsing card, as well as having. I mean, he already had Swordfish too, but you can now also play Drossel if you want more attack removal. But I would agree that the Voldo Foundation is what brought the biggest part. If that you added on for him.
yeah.
Again, tons of crazy characters you can think about. Things like characters like Quan Chi, who we here at Universus Studios think is incredibly strong right now. Like we don't have to dig into it. I still think characters like Turnaloose are crazy good, and you have characters like Dave Wagner that have been playing this character since he came out, and you know that are going to be there. Characters like Kotal Khan, who are this like the best order character in the game, that the order symbol kind of throws all of these strong attacks for a huge loop right now.
Like
Um,
one who's always been a monster into all of his symbols just because he has so much life for a seven hander.
or you can even play characters that take these nutty attacks and play them better than anybody else. Characters like Cassandra, who came from Libra Souls, and she plays Shield Big Bang so crazily because she can actually loop this attack on you multiple times turn two. Whereas other decks, even characters like Gil, need a little bit of setup to make that attack crazy. But she can just sling it if she finds the combo pieces and setup requirements. Characters like Yusuke, who still have Spirit Gun, also gained the Foldal Removal Foundation and can also just turn to you with a shotgun because that's what the character does. Like these characters are still relevant and still exist, and they can blow these A plus tier characters out of the water if the stars align and they have a really good draw or like win a die roll, etc. Like there's a bunch of these answers. And regardless, I think if you're building your deck for worlds, focusing on these kind of strong attacks, and building your deck to the best possible capabilities of not only surviving these onslaught of really strong characters, but still being able to play a good game. I know people are having crazy good success with budget decks right now because, to be honest, from Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers to up until now, the sets that we have, budget foundations and commons are good enough to win against these characters. It's going to take a lot of extra work, and you're going to have to put in a ton of like commitment to making your deck, even if it's not any of these A tier or even B tier characters. But you have to put in that extra work, and because attacks are so good right now, you can do well. You absolutely
Unless
can.
your budget, then you just draw three attacks and kill people.
Yeah, you're right.
I
I mean,
lose to that deck all the time. I understand. I trust me. I understand.
budget Goro, budget like Lilith is crazy. Like you can budget Scorpion is crazy strong right now because you get throws and give him a ton of damage.
You
Impalements
still get
there.
it. Yeah.
You can build your deck exclusively to play Shadow Slicer, which is an incredibly strong card right now. Um, Everybody is trying to constantly find ways to defeat these like more so titans in the deck or in the game. As you can see on this list, nobody thinks that there's like an S tier character right now. But I would say almost all these A plus tier characters and some of these A tier characters are all kind of fighting for that position of, well, who's the one that's the most unfun to play against, um, based off of what we're kind of playing against right now. I don't really know if there's too much else we can say about the event as a whole. We are really fresh into this 2020 season. PTC applications coming to a close soon. Legendary Wolf sponsorships coming to a close soon. Getting more announcement for DLC. Like they already even gave us another spoiler for the Soul Calibur one that's supposed to come out in March. MHA is supposed to come out this first quarter, which would be March or beforehand. So like, there's still so much happening, and there could be so much more of this event that we don't know about. But the meta specifically is what we kind of wanted to focus on today. Is there really anything we should address for the
No. Yeah, I think it's everything we wanted to hit. As far as diversity goes, for anyone who's worried about diversity or who's ever played into diversity, I like Chris Nixon's philosophy. It doesn't matter what other people are going to play. You just got to show up and play it the best, and just beat people's ass because that's UFS. You know,
Yeah.
we're all here to have fun together, but people gotta die sometimes. Like,
Um, I especially think if this is going to be your first major, because this game is picking up a lot of traction, uh, you should not be afraid of diversity at all, and you should just go and do the best you absolutely can. Because at the end of the day, if this is your first major and you go X and 2 or X and 1, and because you played a top tier character or something, or someone played your character a little bit better, and you got diversified but still had an X and 2, X and 1 record, I, I would be so proud of you. And I don't even know you, but like you should also feel proud of yourself. Although you're also going to understand how shitty it feels to get diversified. So
it
it's a win-win.
happened to me.
It's happened to me.
Definitely it can feel bad because you did what you needed to do to top, and then you didn't top. But that's so we don't have 14 Liu Kangs in top cuts. It's just one of those things that it's a necessary evil in the game, and at the end of the day, we're all happy about it because I would not want there to be 8 Raptors at Worlds last year, just in top cuts sitting there.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like, what crazy decks would we not have seen if they didn't? Oh, do that Byakko deck. That Byakko deck. We wouldn't have
Yeah,
seen that.
we would not have seen. Killick probably wouldn't have made it in, or was there 2 Killicks?
No, well, Richard was last seed after all the diversity, so he
So
would have
Killick
definitely.
wouldn't have made it in. Yeah, saw these crazy decks, and I can't speak for Barrett, but I know myself. If any new players are trying to get into the game, and you want advice on your decks, or you want to know what your deck's going to struggle with, feel free to send us a message.
You can
I know,
comment. I'm trying to do my absolute best to always read every single comment that comes up. Feel free to comment in the comment below. You can comment on the Facebook post that I share. You can comment on the actual Universus Studios page itself. I guess
feel,
you can
feel
message me
free to,
on Facebook.
yeah. Don't message him; he doesn't like it. But
No, I do. I will absolutely respond to your message.
feel free to message myself. We're always sitting here building decks because we have absolutely no life outside of our 2 jobs in school.
Yeah,
But we'll try our best to get back to everyone, and we'll help you with your decks because we want everyone to show up to Worlds being the best they can be. We want it to be a super competitive environment and a super fun, casual environment at the same time. We want everyone to just have a good time and be prepared as they want to be.
absolutely. I don't know if we'll probably ever. Well, I don't know if we'll touch back up on this event up until probably after it happens. It's basically going to be a bunch of cram time. I'm personally not going, although this is the second Worlds now I've missed out on, and I'm really regretting it. But Mark will most definitely be there. Go bother him if you go see him. He is, I guess, the current national champion anyway. So
Yeah, feel free to bother me. I love it.
he's a beast sugar, but whatever.
I am just to the max.
But yeah, that's pretty much what we had to say about Worlds coming up. Just again, back off of the tier list. I'm sure everybody has their opinions, and you're probably going to be hearing a ton of them from the other content creators. We just wanted to get ours out early, give you a little bit of our insights, so that we can be talking about a lot more fun stuff that might be happening this year. So expect some more of that. Thank you so much for watching. And again, if you have anything or you like what you see, feel free to subscribe to the channel and like us on Facebook. And we'll see you guys in the next one.